Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Welcome back to the Fort Worth Masonic Podcast. My name is Abby Kirkendall. I'm the chaplain and past master of Fort Worth 148.
I am Brandy Patton, current Worshipful Master of Fort Worth 148.
And I am Cody Cox, current Senior Warden of Fort Worth Lodge number 148.
Welcome back, gentlemen. It has been a long time since we last recorded.
At least a week. At
Yeah.
least a week.
We cycled my laundry
days.
On
one
last
time.
week's episode.
I've had to
Perfect.
wash my my laundry so many times since I was last here.
You did refill your cup.
I did manage to go get a refill.
I didn't.
This is the magic.
We got some really great issues to talk about with you today. We're going to be starting off today talking about some issues that have arisen lately with the Grand Lodge of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work through some of that. Then we're going to talk about some, in the season of making oneself available for officerships with lodges and Grand Lodges. Why do it? What the expectation is?
And do you have to do it anymore because the resolution was passed?
Right, all of these things.
No, I'm running.
We're going to talk about these things,
Mm-hmm.
but first, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, B&Brew. They are a steadfast part of our lives here at 148.
Absolutely.
Everybody at 148 and many of our events has tasted the deliciousness that is B&Brew's mead, because they have we've done it with toasting
Festive boards.
layouts and festive boards.
It is technically wine. So
It is technically wine, and
Legally,
so
in Texas.
it is not technically wine. It is just in fact wine. And then we have the latest extension, which is now coffee offerings, which is great. We've got some great coffee roasting going on at B&Brew, and in fact, our brother Chris has just said that if you happen to come down to B&Brew at some point in the future, you might even be able to enjoy a nice, lovely cup of coffee while you peruse the offerings of B&Brew's mead offerings. So check out B&Brew. You can go to their website, use the promo code FW148 for 10% off of your purchase. If you purchase enough to reach the free shipping threshold, there is that opportunity. And then it ships to almost every state. There's a couple that don't, but if you're here in Texas listening to us where it really matters, it's available to you. So check out our friends over at B&Brew. They are a great Texas-owned business, Masonic-owned business that is worth your time and
a great
perusal.
guy.
And just a great guy, that Chris. He is genuinely great guy.
Anyway, nothing.
So now back
fluff.
to our regularly scheduled programming. So the first topic we want to talk about today is this situation in Mississippi Freemasonry. The Grand Lodge of Mississippi has apparently decided and voted not to recognize Prince Hall Freemasons in their state. And it is by a large margin, from what I understand.
Specifically, their version of Prince Hall Masonry in their state.
Yes, and there's and as I understand it, we're going to talk about this in a moment. But there, apparently, the issue that seems to be coming up quite erroneously, to my understanding, is that it's because of something to do with the organization's name and the history of how they got that name, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to talk about that.
The Stringer Grand Lodge.
The Stringer.
Stringer Grand Lodge.
Yes, that.
Yeah. I'm
And-
trying to find a post that I had seen about that dealt with how many votes.
Yes,
It
if
was
I remember correctly, it was
Overwhelming.
It was an overwhelming majority voted against it, the recognition.
Well, I know
And-
that there was 200 votes for and something like 617
Well,
against.
and also to clarify, it wasn't a resolution. It was a Grand Master's recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're a little different. The Grand Master doesn't dictate by rule. It doesn't make it happen. They vote on it. Same thing in Arkansas.
But it was the idea that it kind of shocked me, to be honest, when I looked at it, because, we talk about, at Grand Lodge, we have votes where it's 1,1700 versus 1,200. They only had 689
total
votes or something like that.
Yeah, I
It
think
was
there were
just-
604 and like 200 and some odd against. No, excuse me, vice versa. There were like 600 votes against recognition, and there were a little over 200 votes for recognition for a total of about 900-ish
Yeah.
votes. And that's, as a Texas Freemason, that's kind of shocking because we have a lot more than that votes at Grand Lodge.
Close to 4,000, 5,000 depending.
We have
4,000 is a good number. 3,700 I think last year.
Yeah, we have attendees, but the actual votes, I think we have 3,000 votes that are
yeah, it
eligible.
was something.
So, but at any rate,
Every past master gets 1 vote, and every lodge gets 3 votes
yes. And I think that the thing that continues to shock me,
in Texas.
and I understand Cody is going to give us some details about the Grand Lodge and some of the excuses, and I say the word excuses intentionally, that were used to vote this Grand Master's recommendation down. Seem a little not great in my opinion. But it seems to me that this is just yet another string of Mississippi's bad relationship with the African American, or predominantly African American expression of Freemasonry in their state.
Yeah.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum. This isn't the first time they've had the opportunity to recognize Prince Hall Masonry. There's been plenty of times in their history where they have chosen a path that is not for brotherly love and cultivating relationships.
For the
with
3
these.
non-Masons that listen to the podcast, recognition means they can sit in your lodge.
Right. So mutual recognition. I can go to a Prince Hall Lodge.
Right.
Prince Hall Lodge members can come to our lodges. We can hold Masonic communication.
In Texas, we can go to Most Worshipful Grand Lodge, a Texas Prince Hall affiliate. Sorry, it's a mouthful. But we can sit in their lodges, they can sit in ours, but we can't go to Oklahoma and do the same thing.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right. And so that's all understandable. I understand every jurisdiction has a right to recognize whomever they want.
So technically, we don't recognize this Grand Lodge either.
Right, but because
they're not in our
but
state.
they haven't petitioned to be recognized by Texas.
But if they did and they got accepted through extension, we could we sit in their lodge? I don't know. Maybe.
It would be an interesting web of how these things interact with
someone
each
could vouch for you as a Master Mason and you could attend.
Right, but I think ultimately though that misses that kind of gets down a rabbit hole of
That's
what
we do
is
here.
super irritating to me.
Yes.
Is that this is yet Mississippi already has demonstrated that they are not interested in any sort of racial equality in my mind in this.
30% interested.
Yes, they are. It smacks of racial bias.
Yeah.
It smacks of all the things that Mississippi is known and stereotyped for being not exactly open to members of an African descent joining their lodges. And then this means that they are not recognizing Prince Hall Masonry, because it wasn't that long ago that we also had the big kerfuffle about an African American Mason being denied entry to their lodges. Yeah. So I have said it once. I have said it many times.
Was that Mississippi?
Shame.
The veteran that showed up?
Yes, that's
They
the
saw
big
him and said,
yes.
nope. Yeah. Okay.
For shame, Mississippi. Every Mississippi Mason, in my mind, has a giant cloud of shame.
And it was a regular
all
lodge
over them.
Mason, not a Prince Hall Mason that they wouldn't let in.
Right.
Once they saw us
We weren't even. Yeah, we weren't
It
even
was
talking
somebody
about
from the
Prince Hall at that
Grand
point.
Hall
We're
at
just
that-
talking about someone
Grand
who was
Lodge,
black.
Texas. Yeah.
That is shameful, and I will personally never darken the doors of a Masonic lodge in Mississippi. I'm sure that they don't give a hoot about that, but I will not have anything to do with Mississippi Masonry. I think it is deplorable that they are behaving in this way and continue to behave this way. And I think the only way that we're going to solve this problem is through unrecognition. And I'm not saying I'm gonna do it, but I am of half a mind to write a resolution for our next Texas Grand Communication, recommending that we unrecognize Mississippi for
Well,
this
I think
behavior.
that would be something that wouldn't that be something we could like recommend to the committee on
Fraternal
relations or something like that. But I was also going to add to that. I had seen a post online about that where you had a couple of guys that were arguing about, oh, this is going to set Masonry back a couple hundred years, and then somebody came back and was like, it's only going to set us back 10. I'm like, you guys are arguing about the fact that it sets us back. Like that's the thing we need to focus on. It's moving us backwards, not forwards. Come on, y'all.
Yeah. We kind of joked about this a little bit earlier with when before Brandy arrived. It's this idea. I don't know why it came to me, but this idea of the orphan crushing machine came up to me, and it's like we always celebrate. Oh, so and so Grand Lodge, recognizes Prince Hall. Finally, despite the fact that Mississippi and
West Virginia.
Arkansas did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're like, oh yay, Arkansas finally recognizes Prince Hall, and it's kind of in my mind like the giant orphan crushing machine. When somebody says, "Oh, we rescued 10 orphans from the orphan crushing machine," great. No one's asking why is there an orphan crushing machine. No one is asking the question about why these Grand Lodges are making overtly racist choices and refusing to recognize the Prince Hall brethren that deservedly deserve recognition. Now, I understand that there are plenty of Grand Lodges out there that purport to be a Masonic organization that are either irregular or clandestine, or perhaps both. I don't know if that's even possible. But there has got to be, in the state of Mississippi, a Prince Hall Grand Lodge that can be recognized. And the fact that Mississippi has yet to recognize one of them is a problem for me. And the same is true with West Virginia. And,
I think it's West Virginia, Mississippi,
and Louisiana. Didn't Louisiana just recognize some Prince Hall?
I think Louisiana just did something like that.
I'll have to check the data on that.
I think we're down to like 3 or 4 states.
I think there's 3 or 4 states that still have not recognized. And guess where they all are? But I think every
they're
Mason
south of a certain line.
You have a certain
Mason
latitude,
Dixon.
longitude, Mason-Dixon thingy.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that this continues to be a black eye for Freemasonry. Why do we keep making these unforced errors when it comes to our perception in the larger community? And how can we as Texas Masons put pressure on our Masonic brethren in Mississippi to stop being stupid about this?
Yeah.
Because that's all that, I mean, short of unrecognition, I can't think of any answer to this problem. Can you all? I mean, I've talked enough about this. Cody,
We can
Brandy,
take away
y'all-
their cell
y'all
phones.
Take away.
Jam their cell phone signals. No, when we talk about this particular issue, this is where honestly sometimes I kind of think, what would happen if we did have like a Grand Lodge of the United States? Like would that be something? And then I'm like, oh, I don't, yay, another organization to give power to.
Yeah, another grand line.
But
to have
again,
titles
yeah,
for.
oh God.
Can you imagine the name?
But again, the fact that it is 2026 and we are still not, that we're having to have this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, let's move.
And
let's move
I'm
past
also
it.
I'm just going to stipulate real quick that it took Texas
Yeah.
until 2019 to get right with this situation. But we got right with that situation, and now almost every year we have Prince Hall brethren that come to our grand communication as guests.
Yeah.
It is not uncommon for our grand officers to go to their grand communication. We at 148 routinely have Prince
Visitors.
Hall brothers visit our lodge, and us have our Masons visit their lodges. So we aren't perfect in this matter. We were definitely dragging our feet on the Prince Hall recognition bandwagon, but that was still over 6 years ago now, 7 years ago that we finally got it right.
Mm-hmm.
And Mississippi still hasn't gotten it right. It blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Well,
I don't know what else to say.
Hopefully,
about
it will remedy itself soon. Hopefully there will be enough blowback from this decision that at their next grand annual communication that they'll
they will
see it fit.
Here is my take on it. I think that it's if I were of half a mind, I think that it's time for the Mississippi Grand Lodge to clean out all of their officers. If their officers are this poorly situated.
Well, keep in mind their Grand Master made the recommendation.
Yes, and I understand that. And ostensibly,
So
he's not going to be the Grand Master anymore.
Right.
So there's we all know how the political Grand Lodge works.
Even in Texas, we've got Blue Lodges that are way on the other side of what you're thinking right now.
Oh yeah,
So
of course. I know.
Mississippi probably has a little more percentage than Texas. And
Yes.
that's why the vote went the way it did. We'll ostracize the lodges that do that. We shame them.
We try to.
We can't do it publicly,
Maybe not.
but-
Maybe not. On a podcast.
I mean,
although-
Evie's got the bell, so
right?
True.
shame.
For shame.
That's right.
Disappointments, all of you.
And it is
maybe, frustrating though.
Maybe 5%. It's not that many, but
Yeah,
the 5%
and
is very, very vocal.
And here in
and awkward.
Texas, we kind of know the areas of Texas Masonry where those things are going to crop up.
Right.
And so we kind of know what to expect from it.
But again, we're going back to the point that we have made on other podcasts. The idea of silence is acceptance.
Yes, silence is.
And we
is
are not going to
tacitly-
be silent on it because we do not accept it.
We don't accept that this is the right way to do business with our Prince Hall brethren. We have. I believe that it is safe to say that that we have we have done a poor job of of addressing how we've treated our Prince Hall brethren, and it's time that we start making amends for that. And the way that we can do that is by recognizing Prince Hall organizations across our states, by having visitations with our Prince Hall brethren, learning from and with our Prince Hall brethren. Them learning from us and recognizing that we have a lot more in common than we have that separates us, and breaking down those barriers that have separated us for decades.
And I think the other thing
and
too
decades.
that we need to recognize is that even with recognition and wanting to mend fences and things like that, to understand that that's also going to take some time. Because it's not a magic pill.
Yeah.
It doesn't erase the decades and years of
It doesn't erase
wrongdoing.
votes like this.
No,
in
it doesn't
Mississippi.
erase it. And so it's one of those things. Like if
It took time in Texas for this
Yeah.
to happen. I mean, I remember once the resolution passed for recognition in Texas, some members of the lodge that I was a part of tried to go visit a Prince Hall lodge as one of the first.
Yeah.
They made arrangements. They did it the right way. And then the brothers of that lodge did not want us to visit. And I think that that's totally okay.
Yeah.
They said that they were not ready for us to visit at that point. Eventually now we've gotten to a point where a lot of those barriers are breaking down, and we are finally able to have these really great relationships.
but it takes time.
But it takes time, and it takes trust, and it takes one person having one conversation with a brother and letting people know that they are welcome and that they are celebrated and that we want to be in brotherhood with them.
But saying no on this scale is not the way to.
It's
start.
not helping.
No,
It's not helping anybody
Not
out.
helping anybody. No.
And I'll be honest, it's not going to help us here in Texas build better relationships with our Prince Hall brethren either, because they're going to hear about this. They're going to hear that the Grand Lodge of Mississippi, who we are in amity with, is voting against their brethren being able to attend their Blue Lodges there, while they can while our Prince Hall brethren can
Yeah.
visit our Blue Lodges. It doesn't make sense to me. and I don't know how to solve this problem on what scale. I don't know if revoking amity with Mississippi is the right answer. I don't know if there needs to be some sort of organization that puts pressure. Maybe if I know that there is an organization for the state.
Are you talking about like
Master-
Masonic Service Bureau and
The Grandmaster
I'm
Conference of
thinking
North
about
America?
Grandmaster
the
Conference, yeah.
Conference. If there is something that needs to be some pressure that needs to be leveraged there against, and maybe their Grandmasters disinvited from all events until they get these things sorted out from the 3 Grand Lodges that are holdouts on Prince Hall recognition. I don't know what needs to happen. I am open to any and all of them, largely because this is something that we need to get.
it needs to get taken care of.
It needs to get taken care of, and it's long overdue. And I'm looking at you, Mississippi. You have caused a great deal of shame on our fraternity this day. So, and I say that with a heavy heart. I don't say that with glee or with happiness. It is sad that this is news that we have to talk about today in the 21st century.
In other news, though, Kansas just did a joint raising. Prince Hall and the regular Kansas Lodge did a joint raising.
And that is something that is really impressive. I know that
That's why Omar's not here. He went to it.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, when Omar gets back, we'll have him talk about it.
Yes, we were planning on having him on the podcast today, but unfortunately he had some other commitments that prevented him from making it today. So we will have his experience.
His car can't drive 500 miles an hour.
Right.
Omar's hot take.
Yeah, Omar's hot take on the Kansas double raising. But I know that we here at Fort Worth 148, whenever we were planning on Masonicon, one of the things that came up is getting approval for the Prince Hall brothers to exemplify a degree for Blue Lodge Masons here in
we
Texas.
call it Thanksgiving Con now, or just because it's November?
It's still in the works. We have some really good ideas, and trust me, as soon as we have those things available, we will put those out on the podcast.
I know it's been talked about that it might be we might have the Masonicon thing back up and going.
Yep.
But we'll see. Watch this space.
I just realized it's March. I only have 3 meetings left.
Yeah, you're almost done.
So that's all yours, bro.
Which is
Should tradition prevail?
Since you have made yourself available for the East,
yes.
which is a wonderful on-ramp to our next conversation. So it is that season, gentlemen, where brothers across Texas.
You're going to see those brothers you only see 3 months out of the year.
Right. They are making themselves available left and right for different officerships in the lodge. We have our Grand Lodge officers making themselves available for the next Masonic year.
By July.
Because they have to have their declarations by July. So we have a lot of people making themselves available for a lot of different roles. People are asking to be nominated for the various and sundry roles in the lodge. So let's talk a little bit about that, about making yourself available, because I am a past master. You are the master. You are our current senior warden, but a past master.
I'm a most excellent master, technically.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Most excellent. You sound like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
But you have made right.
I was going to say your shirt, but
Leonardo.
I got confused.
But you have made yourself available for the East in 148.
Yes, I have.
And should tradition prevail, the vote will.
The odds are pretty good.
The
odds are ever in my favor.
52%.
Yeah, 50% plus 1. So
who knows? Maybe I will win by 500%.
I'm not even sure we have 500% ballots.
All I can see is the brothers at Lodge clapping for me.
Yeah. That would be so bizarre.
We're going to practice.
We're going to have to do that.
Why does everybody at 148 look like a Wii character?
Oh, that's going to be crazy.
Oh,
but let's talk a little bit about why each of you made yourselves available in the first place. For you, it might be a little difficult because that could be considered electioneering, and I don't want to get you into any trouble. But
we have a resolution that changed the rules. It's fine.
But even still, I don't want to.
I'll talk
I
about.
will let you
I'll talk
speak
about
of it
my
at your
experience
comfort.
I'll
at
talk about
Tarrant.
my experience at Tarrant.
Yes.
Um,
And then we'll
yeah.
talk about what led you, and then I'll share my experiences, and we'll kind of talk about what we think
I
we
gotta
should be
figure out.
looking for.
I gotta
from
figure out
leaders.
why I did it in the first place. So give me a
Right?
minute.
I remember that 3 months out date where I was like, why did I do this?
Why?
So go ahead, Cody. Talk about your experience about why you made yourself available.
Well, I the weird thing for me is that my kind of road to the east at Tarrant was very circuitous. It was I came into Masonry at Arlington Heights, 1184, and I was there. And then my wife had joined a women's organization, the Daughters of the Nile, that met at the Tarrant Lodge building in North Fort Worth. And so I was going with her to those meetings because it's North Fort Worth. And when I was there, of course, I met some of the brothers from Tarrant Lodge, and I could see that there was a need for younger Masons, that there was a need for assistance. And so I started going to Tarrant Lodge because I wanted to help, and then when it came time to start, so I was there for about a year or two, and then when it came time to think about going on the line to become master of the lodge, the thing that kind of came to mind was, is this going to be something that I can do to help serve the brothers of Tarrant Lodge? And the answer to that one was yes. For anybody that's listening or watching, if you're thinking about making yourself available, and if you're listening and why are you saying make yourself available? We don't say that we're going to run for something, because that kind of gets into that electioneering type thing. And I'll be honest, it just also kind of sounds weird now to me. So I'm going to be honest, when we use the term, I'm going to make myself available, or I'm making myself available for something, that does two things. One, it shows some sort of humility in the fact that you realize that, this isn't something that necessarily is going to happen. It could, but it also brings into your view the idea that what you're going after is, you're not going after leadership because you want to have control. You're going after leadership to allow yourself to serve others. That servant leadership. That was a big deal when I was DDGM, was the idea of being a servant leader. And that came down from, past Grandmaster Billings, the idea of being a servant leader. And so my kind of journey to the East was about wanting to help serve the brothers at Tarrant Lodge, to be there to help them. I knew that there were things that were going to be coming up with the building that, we were going to need all hands on deck. And I felt that I was at that point kind of uniquely situated in order to be of assistance with that one. So that's how I arrived at making myself available. I was elected into the South, and then we actually had the person that was serving in the West that next year got out of line, and so I had the opportunity to go from being junior warden to worshipful master. I know, Evie, I think you've kind of been in this thing. I don't wish chair hopping on anyone.
Oh my gosh, no.
I really don't. But it did prepare me for kind of some things that happen when you are worshipful master. We really do have to kind of think on your feet and stuff like that. But I was extremely blessed at Tarrant to be surrounded by a lot of past masters who were more than willing to tell me what their opinion was. But they weren't like the typical grumpy past masters. They actually really were helpful
Sure.
with that one. So I think if you're making yourself available, the first place that you've got to start with is understanding that this is not about you. This is about let's call it what it is. We'll harken back to John F. Kennedy, who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." That's where you have to start.
So I'm going to ask you a question, a couple
Sure.
of questions, and this is going to give Brandy a little bit of a heads up so he can be thinking of an answer. But the first, I think it's one of the things, as you were talking about, one of the things that I think that our listeners might benefit from, especially those members who are considering making themselves available or who have made themselves available. What characteristics did you think when you made yourself available, did you think you were going to need, versus what characteristics did you actually need that surprised you after going through your year in the East?
Ooh, when I was going into making myself available, I knew that or at least I thought that I was going to need to have a firm grasp on like Grand Lodge law. I thought that I was going to have to be like the best communicator. Like, I had to be on my tip top of that one. But then I also I knew that I was going to need to be able to listen to the needs of the brothers at the lodge. What actually came to being when I reached the East was, yes, I needed to listen. That was for sure. I also figured out that it can get lonely at the top, and you have got to ask for help. Otherwise, there's kind of this perception that once you become master of the lodge, like, you got it and you know how to do it. And there's nothing further from the truth. If you've been master of a lodge, you know that there's times that you're like, yeah, it looks like I've got all this. Oh crap, what am I going to do?
And you pull out your phone and start texting.
Yeah, I need help. And you practice your lines over and over and over again, and you're like, I know how to do this, and then the light turns on, and you're just like, So delegation, asking for help, was something that I didn't think that I was going to need to have, but I definitely found out that I needed that one. The ability to listen critically, that was definitely something in there. And then, honestly, the ability to ask for forgiveness, but to know you had to ask for forgiveness, but to know that there were going to be times, and this is something I didn't know, and if you're making yourself available, I want you to listen to this. There are going to be times that you're going to have to make a decision that you know are going to make people unhappy, and you're going to have to live with it. That's really the crux.
Great advice. So let's switch to you, Brandy. Tell us a little bit about your reason, your journey to making yourself available for what you are right now, the Worshipful Master.
I never actually said those words, make myself available.
Okay.
I never officially asked for anything. It was inferred. So, background, Jeremy, past master, he was secretary when I came to join the lodge. We had, I don't want to call it the lodge had a problem. We had a couple of members that caused some problems, and some officers left, and I don't want to elaborate a whole lot, but we had some lack of leadership coming up.
And we also, that was followed very quickly by COVID.
COVID also played a part, definitely. He decided after 15 years of being a Mason, you know what? I think I want to go through the chairs. It's like, you know what? I'll take secretary, or I'll run for secretary. And I got it for 2 years, and Jeremy went through the chairs. You followed him. I kind of stumbled into it. Through secretary, I saw a whole lot of problems that we weren't doing a very good job of communicating. it's nobody's fault in particular, but you're getting emails you weren't even a member yet. I got emails. 15 different people are checking emails, but nobody's really checking them, right? So put together a
looking
system
at 'em, yeah.
where we have a new candidate committee, which we did 7-8 different times, and nothing ever really worked. As secretary, I answered every one of those emails, and we ended up having 15 candidates that year, and those candidates are now officers. It just moved up. I just did a little bit of work that was outside my purview. I helped organize some of the dinners. Anyways, I didn't ask to go to the South. I was nominated, and of course I accepted because I thought I was capable of doing it, and progressed through the chairs. Obviously leading to Worshipful Master. I had no desires to ever do it and never thought I'd have a chance. But I also wanted to do it because I thought I could, like what Cody said, you're helping the lodge. I've got some skills. I am not a ritualist at all, and everyone can attest to that see me in a lodge. I'm not going to confer a degree, but I can deal with the problems that we're going to have. I've got some creative solutions. I don't delegate, really. I don't have to because I set everything up by committee. Like Cody's the chair of certain committees. I delegate before I was ever installed because he's on that committee by default. That's just how it works. The committees I have to be on, I'm the chair of. And it works for us. So just rethink how you do things. And yeah, I never wanted it. I'm glad I'm almost done with it. And I'm hoping I'm doing a good job. So the charter's still on the wall.
Yeah.
Haven't made a whole lot of mistakes. So
That really is the litmus test.
Yeah,
The charter's still on the wall.
Yeah.
well, we have more members than we started with. We have money in the bank, and the charter's still on the wall.
Yeah.
You did a great year. That's my goal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Those are some great metrics.
And we're gonna have a bunch of raisings in my year. We're gonna have 5, I think.
5 or 8, yeah, maybe even more than that.
Which 6. About 7 years ago, we did 6. That's the most we've done, and that I can track.
Yeah. So same question to you. As you were about to enter the East, what skills did you think you needed versus what skills have you actually needed to rely on that surprised you during your year in the East?
That's the toughest freaking question. People skills. I mean, I kind of can read a room. That's a skill that I'm really good at, I think. But dealing with the fallout from that, I'm not good with. As far as skills that I mean, management, it kind of runs itself if you delegate properly. I can't think of an answer.
Okay, that's fine. No pressure.
A little bit.
A little bit. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That's why I was giving you a little bit of a heads up about the questions before.
Yeah, our 3
before I
listeners are
asked.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Actually,
our supreme leader.
That's right.
is
And that's a great
disappointed.
idea. For those of you that are making yourself available for Worshipful Master, know that there's sometimes that's going to happen where people can be like, give me an answer. And you're like, I don't have one. I got to think about that for a minute.
Well,
What about you, Evie? Tell us about your journey.
Well, Cody kind of alluded a little bit to my journey. I joined just 148. I moved to Fort Worth for work, and I affiliated with 148. I went to a lodge because Monday nights just happened to be my night off, and it was easy for me, so I went to 148. And as soon as I walked in, I knew that this was the kind of lodge that I wanted to be a part of. And it was busy. It was energetic. The people in the room were like my age group. Our lodge skews, I think, much younger than most other lodges do, and that really spoke to me.
Who was the first person you met?
The first person I met was Billy Moore.
Oh, okay, never mind. No wonder
you
got hooked.
I got off the elevator and he introduced himself to me and welcomed me to the dinner. And then the thing that hooked me, I saw all that at the meeting, of course, that I just described. The thing that hooked me on 148 is that when I got off the elevator next month, Billy remembered my name and shook my hand and asked how I was doing. And so it was that sort of, if that is the environment that this lodge is all about, then this is a lodge that I want to hook my wagon to. And I did. So I just started showing up. If something was going on, I was showing up. I didn't ask many questions. I just made myself, try to make myself useful. A couple of times, the worshipful master asked me to sit in for one of the chairs that was absent that meeting. The next thing I knew, the next worshipful master said, "Hey, why don't you be in one of the appointed chairs?" Here at 148, a lot of lodges have different ways of doing their elected line. Our elected line starts at junior warden, then goes to senior warden, and then to the worshipful master. Some lodges, it starts way down at the junior deacon's chair or even the junior steward. We have those seats as appointed. So I was asked to be in one of the appointed chairs. I, much like Brandy, I really not sure that I had any interest in being worshipful master. I certainly didn't see myself as a good enough ritualist to be a worshipful master, and I certainly didn't see myself as administratively skilled enough to do so. But I was willing to do what the lodge needed, and if they needed me to be junior deacon, sure. If they needed me to be, master of ceremonies, more than happy to do it. You need me to be senior deacon? Sure. You need me to learn a part? Okay, I'll do that. And I just kind of said yes to everything. Then I was sitting in the senior deacon's role when one of the members of the existing line stepped out of line. And that threw our leadership kind of into a giant kerfuffle because it was just after COVID. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a lot of members showing up for meetings. There was just not a lot of the bench was not very deep in leadership. I'll put it that way. And so the lodge kind of formulated a plan and asked me if I would make myself available for the senior warden's role. So I went from senior deacon to senior warden, which I don't recommend to anybody, but it was something that needed to happen. And then I went into the East the following year with the trust of the lodge, thank goodness.
And our junior deacon went to junior warden.
And our junior deacon that year went to junior warden and skipped over the senior deacon's role. Even though that was an appointed position anyway, we still kind of loosely follow the line, even if it's not elected.
Brandy, I just thought about something. Here in a few months, you'll be a past master. You've also been a past secretary. I'm a past master, a past secretary. We have a past master who has not been a past secretary.
I'm not opposed to being the secretary if we needed one, but right now I think we have a very capable.
Right now we have a very capable
Billy Moore.
Billy Moore.
Billy Moore is
the job is his.
Yeah, the job is his. I think probably as long as he wants it. I'm not. That's funny because he was chaplain before I was chaplain, so it would be rather ironic if I ended up following him into the secretary role.
If you got, how can you not be your chaplain?
Well, I mean, it's whatever. But
actual reverend is your chaplain.
We're
one of the few lodges that does have an actual member of clergy as our chaplain.
Yeah.
No pressure, other lodges.
Which, by the way, that is something that we need
81
to mention.
hours.
Yeah. Dear God, he could have an MBA. If you are planning on making yourself available, and for those of you that are out there that are making yourselves available to be worshipful master, I don't think that it is too early for you to have some plan of who you want to see on your line. Yeah. Start having those conversations with those people, because to be quite honest, if you're making yourself available for that position and you're not having those conversations, then you are putting yourself at a major disadvantage.
Absolutely.
You need to, if the will of the lodge is for you to be a master, as soon as your tushy hits that seat,
you need to hit the ground running.
Pedal to the metal.
By the time you're a deacon, you should have your next 5 years of officers kind of in your head.
Yeah.
Because you're the guy that's going to pick them.
I'll be honest, because I went from senior deacon to senior warden, I did not have a great deal of time to make those decisions. So literally my entire year as senior warden was spent trying to figure out what my year was going to look like leadership wise, and then what we were going to do. Like any sort of major plans that I had for the lodge kind of went out the window. And to answer my own questions, the skills that I thought I was going to need going into the East that I ended up needing, but they weren't as instrumental as I thought, was going to be like ritualist.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be like so front and center. Like if like everything was going to hinge on my ability to do certain ritualistic things that we as Masons do. It was important. I don't want to diminish it, but it was not the thing that ended up kind of overshadowing everything.
You're also right behind a cert.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was right behind a couple of people.
Gabe scared me too.
Yeah, I was behind a couple of people who were amazing.
And
Billy
I love how you
Hamilton,
said he scared you.
Gabe-
He still
Gabe
scares me.
Yagish.
What are you
Yes.
talking about?
right worstful, Gabe Yagish.
District Deputy Grandmaster
Deputy-
of
District-
Masonic District number 64A.
Yes. And I would say that the thing that I didn't realize that I was going to need, that I ended up leaning into quite a lot, was conflict resolution skills. As the year that I was in the East, and I don't know how you guys have managed it, I've kind of tried to keep my nose out of everybody else's.
He doesn't show up.
business.
We're not going to name his name. You had one in particular that doesn't show up anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say names. We'll talk about it later, but
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Well, crying
But-
quietly in a corner also helps.
Yeah,
I'm just, you know.
there was a lot of like internal conflict that between members, and some events happened. I didn't realize how much conflict resolution and frankly now I wouldn't call it conflict resolution. Now in my current vocation, I would call it pastoral care. It was really about de-escalating. It was about getting people to recognize that not everything is about them, and that these circumstances need to be contextualized. And that was a skill set I didn't know that I was going to need quite so much in a group of Masons, but it ended up being a very, very useful gift. And I would say, if you are planning on making yourself available, start brushing up on your skills at de-escalation and conflict resolution, because not to say that you're going to have a lot of arguments. The kind of conflicts that I'm talking about are not argumentative. It wasn't like two brothers arguing about politics or something. It was much more, much bigger challenges than that. And those sorts of conflicts, I think every worshipful master has had one of those big kind of talking somebody off the cliff, in the metaphoric way, in their bag. And I know that you've had it. I know that you will probably have it in your year. I know that Sean had it in his year. I know that Jeremy had it in his year. So it's something that if you are not well versed on, Masons and some of the things that go on in Masonry do not lend themselves well to de-escalation, and it takes a skill.
Well, one of the things that I experienced when I was Master of Tarrant was bringing up the idea of, leaving the building and coming to the temple.
I remember you telling that story,
and
how difficult that was.
Yeah, and that's something that you have to be ready for in leadership position, is again those tough decisions, and you cannot be somebody who wants to just kick things down the road. You really need to be somebody that's going to meet those things head on.
And I think that lends itself also to the type of leader you are, because most of the problems, if not all the problems that Freemasonry has right now, and I think that I can say this with very few exceptions, are all a result of people kicking the can down the road. One worshipful master not wanting to be confrontational, or to take on confrontational might be the wrong word. A worshipful master not wanting to take on a difficult or unpopular task.
Yeah.
And like selling a building, or addressing budgetary issues, or whatever the case might be. The longer you kick that can down the road, the harder it's going to be. And so being a decisive leader who gains the consensus of the lodge to tackle these problems, that's going to be the person who is going to be the most effective, is consensus building and tackling the tough problems without having to be told to tackle the tough problem.
And I think, go ahead.
Selling the building, that's a huge problem. And you didn't resolve it because it just happened. Me, it was MasonicCon.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it because I was involved with it so deep the first couple of years as a Mason. It's like, this doesn't even make any sense. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, why are we beating ourselves over the head with this right now?
We lose so much money doing it. And I knew when I was elected, there's no way this is going to happen. But I went with it. It's in my budget. But Then when we sold 4 tickets, it's like,
And
just kill it.
And I will also
let's
say that,
regroup.
I will also say that this is where you did an excellent job of building consensus among the lodge, is because there are a lot of people who had strong feelings about MasonicCon actually happening within our lodge. It was
We still call it
it was a baby to several of our lodge members. And when you came in and just kind of very dispassionately presented the situation and said, I think that we need to forego this year and regroup and figure out what our focus is. Suddenly you saw heads nodding around the room. You had built the infrastructure to make sure that decision was not, it was a Band-Aid that still needed to be ripped off, but I give you a lot of credit for your ability to build consensus and to tackle the difficult thing that's going to be potentially unpopular, but in the final analysis is better for the lodge. And that was a tough decision. I'm not sure that I would have wanted to have.
And that was like
made
my first month in office.
Yeah.
He was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
thanks a lot, guys."
Great leadership there, showing that you had the wherewithal to tackle tough decisions and build consensus around.
And it's coming
getting
back.
it.
And it's going to be a smaller event, but it's going to be meaningful.
And I think that's what's more important is reestablishing what focus is. Not to get off onto
We just can't lose
MasonicCon,
$7,000 on it.
Yeah, we talked about it. It was just getting a little too.
We spent more than some
unwieldy.
lodges have an annual budget on it.
Yeah, it was getting kind of out of
But
control.
anyways, go on. Sorry.
Well, no, what I was going to say as well with, one of the things that I think I was blessed with at 942, and I know that we're blessed with at 148, and hopefully more lodges are like this, is very supportive past masters who are there to lend advice, when asked for it, and maybe not necessarily be like I know you didn't ask me for advice, but here's my advice anyways. That doesn't necessarily happen. The other thing is, doesn't matter if you're making yourself available for junior warden or senior warden or worshipful master
Or a steward.
wherever you're at. I think something that really needs to be considered, and I did this a few years back for a friend of mine that was going into the East down in Laredo. I gave him a crystal gavel for his gift, and what I basically told him is, and I think if you're making yourself available, you have to remember this: that gavel is like a symbol of your power. Okay. And if you look at the gavel, it can look like a hammer, and you can use a hammer to build things, or you can use that gavel to smash something to bits. Think about that when you are making yourself available for something. Eventually, you will probably have that ability within your hands to either help build that lodge or to smash that lodge to pieces. And if you're not considering that, then maybe it's not time for you to make yourself available.
And I think that also begs the question about an individual's motives for going into the East. That if that gavel represents power to you, maybe you should rethink your motives, because the last thing that it represents is power. And I think that that's where your point about cultivating a strong relationship with past masters, I can't tell you how much it meant to me to have the northern row of seats in our lodge room peppered with past masters, because I remember it was probably about the time that you were we were coming out of COVID, and you were raised to Master Mason, that we would go into lodge and there would be no past masters in the north, because they were either not there or they were having to sit in a chair so we could open the degrees. And so we had no past masters that were there on a regular basis. And now, at our last stated meeting, there were how many past masters? We had like 12 past masters in the room that were not serving in a job. I think we had 2 that were.
You and Billy are the only ones that are working.
Yeah, me and Billy are the only 2 that are on the rolls as officers.
Well, and Gabe's marshal.
Yeah, but
But he was
guess
there in
now
different
because,
capacity.
Yeah, he was there. He was there for his district deputies meeting. But yeah, I think if you can cultivate a great relationship with your past masters, have conversations with them about your desire to run and or to make yourself available. I accidentally used that wrong language.
Yeah, it happens.
But
Charges.
yeah,
Form
charges.
one. Trying to say Form 1.
Yeah, we're gonna get
You can do Form 2.
we're gonna get your
late.
Form
Right.
3 ready to go.
But yeah, having that strong relationship with past masters meant that that no matter what I did, because they trusted me and they knew what my plan was and that I respected their opinions, I knew that if I needed to pivot on the spot, something happened in the lodge room and I needed to switch plans, I knew that they were going to roll with it and be there for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this on behalf of secretaries everywhere. If you are making yourself available for the East, you need to know as a worshipful master, the secretary is the one who's running the lodge. That might be an unpopular thing to say out loud, but the year that I was in the East, Cody was my secretary, and I could not have been worshipful master without him because he's the one who knew what was really going on the entire time. I was just there to swing a gavel every once in a while. And I suspect that Brandy feels much the same. And I'm sure that when you were secretary, I saw it. You oftentimes knew more about what was going on than the person sitting in the East. So just know that even if you think that gavel is power, just know that the fella sitting to your left has way more power than you do.
You know, and another thing that I'll say,
The one to write, too. He writes the checks.
Yes,
Yeah.
the one that writes the checks.
trust me, those two goobers that are on either side are usually the ones that have been there for a long, long time. The other thing that I'll say is, and I don't know if you experienced this, you probably did, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but hopefully you did, is if you're making yourself available, especially if you're going in, if you're making yourself available for the worshipful master, and you walk past the wall of dead presidents, and it doesn't make you sweaty and uncomfortable, then maybe you should rethink about that, because you need to kind of keep in mind that you are the newest link in a chain that goes way back. At Tarrant Lodge, we got our charter in 1906. So there was 116 guys up on the wall. When I went through as master, and then at Fort Worth, we've been up since 1855. So there's even more.
171.
Yeah, we're coming up on 171, 172.
It's very intimidating when you sit in the East in our lodge to look over to the left and see the eyes of all the men who have sat in the East before you,
Including the guy that owned the land that gave it to the lodge originally.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's very humbling, and it's very you suddenly realize that the bar is set very high.
Which, by the way, just so you know, so I rearranged the pictures because we had some gaps and stuff like that.
You found the ladder?
So you're on the end, right?
Yeah, I'm on
you're on the end,
the right side.
and then
Sean is the next one.
Sean, and then there'll be you, and again, should tradition prevail, me. And I was looking at it the other day. Do you know whose picture I am going to be above? Sam Levacy.
Wow.
I was like,
You want to switch back here?
Right.
I'm not
Sure you don't want to move me up to that first.
I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, but to think that I'm going to be on the wall with that guy.
That Masonic luminary.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't know if
I'm
people
above.
outside of 148 have as much awareness of who Sam Levacy was as we do, but he was a beloved member of our lodge. We have a photo of him outside our lodge room with an ashlar, and it refers to him as the cornerstone of 148. He passed
A couple of years ago.
several years ago.
He was installed as a worship master at 101 years old.
Yeah.
He was
Or was it 100?
It was at 100.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was sharp as a tack. Many of our members will speak of him about how he would correct their work.
Yeah.
And he was hard on them, but in the most loving way possible, and made their Masonic journey what it is.
And to this day, the senior warden is the chairman of the Sam Levacy Committee,
Yes,
which
we
is the
named
new
our-
candidate
Yeah.
in education.
Yeah, we've named our Education and New Candidate Committee after him, the Sam Levacy Committee.
But with that being said, I'm sure that lots of lodges out there have those types of people that are in the lodge that have passed on and stuff that still loom large. And to think that your picture will eventually be up there with that person, if that doesn't give you moment for pause and doesn't help you to understand the enormity of the task that you are kind of putting yourself into, then
and to be a little circumspect about your motives too, because the
absolutely.
bar is high.
Yeah.
When you look up at that wall, the bar is high.
And especially if you have past grand masters at your lodge as well.
Yeah.
3 of those up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, gentlemen, I hope that those of you who are listening out there have a little bit of an insight into what little insight we have about making oneself available for elected or appointed office in your lodge.
Yeah.
We're always looking forward to your feedback. So tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. Drop a comment. Remember, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Click the bell. Click the bell to get your notifications that we've dropped a new episode. Make sure that you are interacting with us. Remember that we are a slave to the algorithms of social media. So if you like this, if you share it and you interact with it in the comment section, that is going to tell the algorithms that you value this content, and it's going to share this information with other brothers who might also get good advice or education from and service from this podcast, which
Or
is our
just need
ultimate
something to fall asleep to.
or you just think that we are great ASMR
That's right.
opportunities. So
Masonic
thanks again to our sponsor today, BM Brew. Remember FW148 for your 10% discount to all of the fantastic opportunities that BM Brew offers, from mead to horn drinking paraphernalia to coffee.
Used barrels.
Barrels, flasks. That's the word that I
Oh,
was drinking.
Horns.
Yes, horns. Those things, delightful. But yes, please patronize them. They are Texas owned and operated, and they are Masonic owned and operated. So it is
Veteran too.
Yes.
Veteran too, and so
patronize them.
They
but
are
don't
worth your
patronize them.
Yes, they are worth your patronage. Definitely check them out. They are doing great things over there. So, with that, gentlemen, I think it's time for us to say a bid adieu. My name is Evie Kirkendall, and I'm signing off.
Brady Patton, sign off.
And this is Cody Cox signing off.